and Keith Manensky from the University of Florida is there cheering me on and helping me, and as he does each time. And today we are going to do something that is very critical to a geriatric care management ALCA business, and that is bill. And make a profit and learn financial management to do that. And I've done this several times, and it is, a really important thing for you to learn. So the first thing, that I always ask is your care management practice profitable? And the answer is most care managers or ALCA practitioners don't even know. And the reason is that most of us, including myself, start as social workers or nurses or a health-related field, and we were never taught business. No, and there was not a business class in any of the social work or OT, PT programs that we ever took. So you're coming into this, unfortunately, without a business background, and it is a business. So why does this matter? Because what happens is that many care managers or ALCA practitioners realize 10 years later that they've served a lot of clients, that they've just worked so hard, that they have really done good work and for their clients, but they're burnt out and they haven't made any money. And really, this is true if you look at ALCA. ALCA's membership has remained around 2000 for a very long time because a lot of people join ALCA and it's a great organization, but they aren't able to really make a lot of money at care management, and they either just quit, they turn it over to their workers, and do it that way. But very few really make a lot of money so that they can sell it. And that's what I'm trying to help you here with. So I'm here today to help you avoid this pitfall and to be able to really understand how to make money. So I always use like a fake care manager, and it's not like fake news. I don't believe in fake news, but this is a fake care manager made up of a lot of people that I work with. I have been doing this for 10 years. I had a practice for 25 years before that, yada, yada, yada. So Allie was a social worker. She had a social work degree, but she didn't have an MBA. But she had an entrepreneurial streak. We all do. Everybody out there, if you're taking this, you have an entrepreneurial streak. So you wanted to take your skills in healthcare and you wanted to turn them into a business. So you started a care management business, and so did she. And she had a partner. A lot of people have partners. And she had a sister who she borrowed the money from to start the business. And a lot of times we borrow the money from our mother, or we borrow the money even, from the bank, very serious, or we have an angel investor, that's very few, but she got it from her sister and she promised, and this is actually a true thing. I've had people tell me so many bizarre stories about how they avoided billing, and this was a true story. So she promised her partner that she would bill because the partner knew that was really important. But Allie was so guilt-ridden by billing because she had been trained to give her services away that she deleted 50% of the hours billed. And so what happened out of that is her business failed after 1 year. And of course, she had a very upset sister, a very upset partner, and she herself felt like she was a failure. So just remember this story because I'm going to show you how important it is that you don't bill that 50%, and certainly so important that you don't fail. So the results, I worked with her, and again, this is, I've made her up, but I've worked with probably over 100 people over the last 10 years and coaching them in geriatric care management. And I coached her in ethical dilemmas. We're going to talk about that because that's what held her from billing. I created a sales plan for her because she, not knowing business, didn't know how to do marketing or sales. I explained to her and taught her how to close a deal or close a sale. And she bought my operations manual, which has 14 products. And let me explain a little bit about this. I use seventh generation products, and that's because I live in California and I use gray water because we don't have like a lot of water here. And I only want to use, really, really environmentally sound water, cleaning agents. However, seventh generation has a line of products, and I have seventh generation dish detergent, I have seventh generation washing detergent, I have seventh generation washing our hands detergent. They have a line of products for the whole spectrum of what I need. And you, as a care manager, can't just say, and so many of you do, that you basically do care management. Most people don't even know what it is, or ALCA. And so you need a whole range of products, just like seventh generation has, for the incremental um, aging process that older people go through. They may start with, just some advice and they're living independently, and then they need non-medical care. They've gone up a notch, and then they may need to move out of their home and downsize, and then they may start to use, care providers, and then they need three shifts because they're very seriously impaired. That's a whole range of aging, and you need a range of products for that. So I coached her in doing that, and I coached her in what I'm going to talk about today, the importance of cash flow and having a financial plan. I'm going to show you that. And I showed her how to ensure that she billed 85%. And then I coached her on what kind of software really to get that would help her and the people that she employed and her partner bill very easily in the field and at home, and get as much money, because lots of times, if you write down your billing on when you're out in the field and then come back to the office, you lose 40% of the billed money. So once I did that and I worked with her for several months, when she restarted her business, she had 20 referrals and she was ready to start when she reopened. So why can I help you? I'm going to fly through this. I always do. I'm the author of the Handbook of Geriatric Care Management now in its fourth edition. However, a number of really wonderful care managers wrote in this book, so I am really an editor in many, many ways. And it's a great book. I have been a professor of geriatric care management at UC Berkeley, San Francisco State, that used to have a master's in geriatric care management, the University of Florida, where Keith's from, and that's another master's in geriatric care management, and Stockton University in New Jersey, where actually I'm from, and has a gerontology program. And I've taught a lot of other places, but I'm a teacher. And I'm the author of a really, really good book called Care Managers Working with the Aging Family. And if you've ever really heard me, aging is not about a singular older person. It's about a family system. And you have to know how to work with a family system in order to get care for the older person. It's the whole family approach, which Bunny Dibness talks about. And so many other great geriatric care managers wrote in this book, and it's a great book to get. And I'm the author of my Geriatric Care Management Operations Manual. That's now in its fourth edition. I've had it out for 10 years, and that has 14 products, just like seventh generation, for every point that an older person moves through in their aging process, and soup to nuts how to do it. So the pitfall for most geriatric care managers or ALCA practitioners is the majority of us are social workers, nurses, PTs, OTs, who start an aging life business, and we end up with something called an ethical dilemma. So what's an ethical dilemma? That's when two or more ethical standards are crushing into each other. I live right near the San Andreas Fault, it's about 5 miles away. Pacific Plate and let me see, the Pacific Plate, and I guess I forget what the other plate is, but right on the coast of California, they are rubbing hard against each other because we are moving toward Alaska here. And every once in a while, there is a titanic earthquake because there's so much pressure between those two plates. And that's an absolute thing that happens in your mind if you have, an ethical dilemma. And that's what happens here. So, uh, what's this all about? Well, let's just take the word beneficence. Beneficence means, and that's what most of us, signed up to do the greatest good for older people. If you're a social worker for children, do the greatest good for children. So, this is an ethical dilemma. If beneficence is doing the greatest good for older people, why isn't aging life care management free? A very good question. And that's the ethical dilemma we have in aging life, or, in any, like, think of doctors. Doctors have an ethical dilemma too, because they are trained to, to do everything to save people. And yet they don't treat certain people because they can't pay them. That's an ethical dilemma. We're in the same boat. So it's when two ethical standards apply to a situation but are in conflict with each other. Because we've all been trained as social workers, nurses, yada, 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 for older people and to help them and their adult children. But we can only serve the top 10%. The top 10%. The other 90%, we can't give our services to. This is a huge ethical dilemma for us, because we can only serve the people who can afford it. Now, why is this true? Geriatric care management itself is not that expensive, I don't think. I pay a plumber more than I pay I would pay a geriatric care manager. And we need both the plumber and the geriatric care manager. But over this, this increment of time in aging, you need a few hours in the beginning of our services, but then you need more and more. And the killer is, at some point, you're going to need home care. And home care is incredibly expensive. So is being in a nursing home. And only the top 10%, those entitled top 10%, can really afford that. And so this is the dilemma that we all face in aging, being social workers and nurses. Now let's look at some codes of ethics. You might think this is boring, but I'm trying to explain to you what our difficulty is. NASW, the National Social Work Group, and ANA, the National Nursing Group, with NASW, their ethical principle is social workers' primary goal is to help people in need and to address their social problems. But we say we're only going to help the top 10%. Contemporary nursing and the ANA disallows any discrimination on the basis of any personal attribute. Socioeconomic status. Here's the key. You have to serve all socioeconomic status people, but we don't. And so thus is the aging life and really the whole healthcare dilemma. And because we don't have socialized medicine in this country, and not everybody, it's where Medicare for all comes in. It's where the ANA, ACA comes in. So, in aging life, really in the ethics section, nothing is mentioned about billing the top 10%. But this is a real ethical dilemma. And because we can only serve that top 10%, but most members are trained to give services away, because we are not only just trained to be social workers, nurses, PTs, whatever. Most of us are women, and women are hardwired to give things away, or the human race would fail. We'd throw the babies out of the window when they cried all night. We don't. We care for them, we care for our husbands, we care for everybody. And it is really against our, just basic hard wiring to charge. So this is the dilemma that we're all in about billing. Most entrepreneurs, but this is, we're in a big boat here. Most entrepreneurs are financially illiterate. People, start businesses all the time because they have a great idea. They're able to see the future in some way, and they have a brilliant idea. But most don't really start with financial skills. If you look at Uber or you look at Airbnb, for instance, the people who really started it are not running it now. The people who run it, then the suits come in and they start running it. But Einstein, who we're going to talk about next, he didn't have to worry about any of that. He just taught at colleges and he didn't have to make money. But certainly Thomas Edison did, and he knew money, and he basically was an entrepreneur that was able to make a lot of money out of his great idea. But still, geriatric care managers are entrepreneurs. So what we're going to go through here, just explaining what our dilemma is, first, is the 8 critical steps to change your mindset about billing and make you able to make money and have success, climbing this very, very difficult ladder to bill. And so we're going to go through 8 critical steps. I'm going to show you how to change your value proposition, change your mission, do your market sizing, develop financial literacy, maintain cash flow because cash is king. I will show you that. Choose a system that ensures that your customers are going to have a commitment to pay you. You really have to do that. Hire care managers who can bill 85% from the get-go. And that's a whole new way of looking at hiring in geriatric care management or ALCA. And then choose the right billing software. Okay, here's Einstein. He didn't have to start a business. He just, moved from Germany to Princeton and thought up great things. And this is one of the things that he thought up. You cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So you have to change your mindset, is what Einstein is saying. Change the way you think about money. And the first step I'm going to give you is to create a for-profit mindset. And the first step is to change your value proposition. So what's that? Your value proposition is what tells your clients and your staff what makes your services valuable enough for them to pay you. What's the value? And what makes your services valuable enough for them to stay for a long period of time, because those long-term clients are what you want. You don't want clients coming in and out, in and out. It's very expensive to replace them, and you're scared to death when you lose clients. So what makes you so valuable that they would stay with you for years, which they can? And all this is covered in the Handbook of Geriatric Care Management in Chapter 13. I'm going to reference the book. I'm assuming most of you have it. That's in the 4th edition. You can find out more about it. So let's look at a sample value proposition. Upper income frail elders in Atlantic County, New Jersey will purchase geriatric care management from Aging Life Care Management. I just made that up as the name, because we offer 12 concierge care management services for aging, and our competition only offers 1. And so often, when I work with people and I look at websites, all the geriatric care management or ALCA person says is, we offer geriatric care management. I'm telling you, and you already know, I hope, nobody knows what that is yet. And it's even complicated because the name was changed to ALCA. So now they're absolutely unsure what you do. So, this is, you saying, well, we, under the umbrella of geriatric care management, we have a menu of services, 12 different services for every point in your aging or your needs. And that's a great value proposition, because I can tell you most of your competition is only going to still say, we offer geriatric care management, and nobody understands what that is, and that's only one thing. You have to create a for-profit mindset in your mission, and your mission is a different thing. and that is out in the public. So you want to rewrite your mission statement if it does not mention making money. And you say to me, Kathy, I'm not going to put that in there. Well, you have to be 100% clear that you're serving high-end clients, because honestly, they're the only clients you can really serve and be able to be profitable long term. And these are entitled clients who have the money to pay you. And so this is how you can rewrite, just for ducks, I'm giving you this. This is an example. This is how you can rewrite your mission statement. Premium care management services and choices delivered by extraordinary health care professionals. Premium is the buzzword in there. What you have to put in your mission, you don't put money, but you're going to put gold standard, you're going to put concierge, you're going to put any of those adjectives that really say you're serving the best clients, and you should change your mission to do that. Step 3 is your market sizing, and this is what anyone should be doing in the very beginning of setting up a geriatric care management or restarting one. And a lot of people don't do well in the beginning and they restart. Because what a market size is, you have to find out if the market you're serving, the area you're serving, has those top 10% demographics who can pay you long term, that's going to support your services. And if so, what's the pricing structure would the clients would bear? It's the old, what the consumer will bear. And, if you're having trouble within your area making money, you can, really restart this by looking at this. And how do you do it? Oh, geez. I'm sorry. I don't know what is going on here. We might have to go all through this goddamn thing and do it again. Okay, sorry. I'm not sure what's happening today, but hold on. Okay, here we go. Hold yourself patient. We'll get there. You can see we've been here. We've been here.
We'll just blame it on sunspots.
Yeah. Sunspots. Okay, here we are. So market sizing, it's really called a feasibility study. And first of all, you have to define what your ideal client is. And this is really important. And that's the client you're going to go after. And usually it is somebody over 85 with an income range of $500,000 or above. I know that sounds tough to you, but they're the people that can pay long term when they get into very expensive care, and you want to keep long-term clients. And how you can do that, you can use the census. Quick fax is an easy way to do it, or you can get in touch with your the fiscal board of your state, the financial board. They have all those demographics, or your area agency on aging, they will have that as well. And you have to figure out, where, if they're there, where are they? Because you want to serve that section of your county or your area. So you want to determine the potential available market sizing in each. If you're, choosing between 3 counties, then do this feasibility study in all 3 counties. Where's the largest population of people that are wealthy, and then choose the county essentially that has the wealthiest group, that you can serve. And you also want in a market study to look at the number of third parties. And I'm assuming most of you are really familiar with that, but they would be people that referred to you, like trust officers, like concierge physicians, like upscale assisted living. What in the hell? And assisted living. So you want to find out not only are they there, but how many are there. Because if you have a lot of elder law attorneys, a lot of trust officers, that means they know there's money there as well. That's important. But the other thing is those third parties will refer to you. So both of these need to be in concert in looking, at starting a geriatric care management business or retooling it to find out exactly, where do you have to really focus your ads or your outreach. And step 4, and we're really getting into the serious stuff here, is develop and use financial literacy, because again, it does not come with most of our healthcare programs. Just like when doctors go to medical school, they don't have they're changing that now, but they don't have business classes, and God knows they're running a business or they're a part of a business, and they have to understand, what the managed care group is doing. So, the part of financial literacy or revenue, we're going to talk about that. Expenses, you know what they are. Revenue is money coming in, expenses, money going out. Profit, we've talked about that a lot. Cash flow, cash is king, and I'm really going to focus down on that. And billing 85%. If any of you have ever been on a webinar with me, that's my mantra. You need to bill 85%, and I'm going to explain to you why. Okay, so you've got to understand what impacts revenue. Revenue is the money that, just think again of your business having a bloodstream. Revenue is the bloodstream that comes in that keeps your business healthy and you happy and healthy. So revenue is impacted by the number of clients served, and you've got to have a number of clients to be able to be profitable. But it's not just the clients, it's the number of hours the care manager bills for these clients per month. That's really important. And then the number of clients, and this is, one of the horrible things about care management, if a client dies or leaves you, how many people discontinue during the month? That's a really important factor. And then the percentage of time spent that's billed, and that's called productivity. And this is where the 85% versus, remember the lady that only billed 50% and, hid the rest? She failed business. 85% is really important, and I'm going to dig down in that. And then billing for things like travel time. I hear so many people say, oh, well, we don't bill for it. We're really not, doing anything. You are thinking, and you're probably taking a lot of different calls. You have to bill for all of your travel time. It's really important to make a profit. So, this is a financial projection. It is in the Handbook of Geriatric Care Management, and it's been there for 2 editions. If you have the 4th or the 3rd, you have that. Please read it, page 307 in the 4th edition. And I'm just, showing you the first page of it, but you can see this is all revenue, all the money, how you get your revenue, the number of clients in the beginning of the month, the number of new clients you got, clients discontinuing, clients at the end of the month, average revenue per month, reimbursable clients. This is what's used. And then there's a whole section on expense. And I'm not going to show you all 3, but this is what it'll do. So the model shows you the following. You can go through this financial forecasting model that's right in the book, and you can do a 3-year projected profit or loss. In other words, you can see how your business grows financially and where it's not growing and where you have to make adjustments. The amount of investment required in the very beginning, because in the beginning you're not going to make any money. Your expenses are, almost everything, and you're not making a profit. So how to get the business off the ground by knowing how much you've got to, pony up from your mother, your sister, the bank, or not the angel investor is not going to be around. And through it, you can see the cash flow produced or consumed by the company, the amount of cash coming in, the amount of cash going out, and the number of clients you need to make a profit. That's really important because you've got to take all your expenses and you have to have enough clients billing per hour, generating revenue to, be more than the amount of money going out. And you can tell when your business is going to make a profit, and that's your break-even part. And you really want to see that before you even start. How many clients do you have to have at what hourly rate in order to make a profit? And I'll tell you a little fast story here. I was working with two women who had been the head of the Alzheimer's Association in actually the two richest counties in the United States. And they had worked for 40 years. They already had insurance through their business. And so what they said to me was, Kathy, we want to be able to make enough money soon to be able to buy our own insurance. So they knew exactly where they wanted to go. So I was able to show them exactly how many clients they had to have at what rate of billing that was not just their break even, but they wanted to be able to buy insurance for themselves. And we did it, or they did it. I just showed them how to do it. But you can show yourself that too through this. And when you will break even, usually most of us start, and when are you taking in more money than expending money, and that's your break even part. And when you're going to be able to hire a new care manager finally, and you're not a one-man band. And then all along during the 3 years, when you're taking in enough profit to be able to hire new care managers, buy a whole new printer, keep everything paperless. That's expensive. Move to another building. This will show you. And what we're going to look at now is cash flow. And cash is king. And, I don't have an MBA. I went to UC Berkeley and nobody taught me business. I've learned it over the years with the help of a lot of other people. So cash flow, this is like, just think of this as a heart in a way. Cash flow is the amount of money that's coming into your business, but through your billing. And cash outflow is what's going out mostly in payroll, but in all the other expenses, buying equipment, moving to a new office, the ongoing expenses of paper, but the biggest is payroll. And what happens is that your inflow has to be more than your outflow, and if not, you're in trouble. And that's why cash is king. So why it matters, 96% of small businesses fail in 10 years. It's a real, SBA truth, because they can't pay their bill. And that's because of cash flow, the cash that's pouring out and not enough cash is pouring in. So that's why, people that know money say cash is king. So I'm just going to pose a question here. You don't necessarily have to have the answer, but most of you won't. If you increase your sales by 25% to 50% over the next 6 months, what would happen to your cash balance? Well, almost none of us can answer that. We did not get an MBA. In fact, only 3% of everybody in ALCA ever got an MBA. And so the answer is most business answers can't, most businesses like us can't answer that question. Yet cash flow is the single most common killer of business, particularly a business that is growing, and many of you are starting businesses. Okay, so what's negative cash flow? Businesses die from prolonged periods of negative cash flow, spending more in a month than the business is taking in. So you've got a greater outflow out of that spigot than the spigot coming in. And that's why businesses die. As a business grows, payroll increases. And you've got to, you do it all in the beginning, but you got to get an administrative assistant right away or you'll go crazy and you won't make enough money because you have to have somebody to do all that other stuff. Well, go out and bill, or you're spending all your time billing and not going out and seeing clients and getting the money in. So as an example, say 5 hours of services by you or your care manager were delivered on 11/13/31 this, last year. So that is invoiced or set, if you're only billing once a month, not a good idea. That is invoiced at the end of December. You're not even billing the client until then. And then the client receives the bill sometime in early January, along with all the, late Christmas cards. And they, for most of them, will pay the client mid-January, but a lot of them won't. They won't pay until February. But in the meantime, you've had to make 2 payrolls during December, one in the middle of December and one at the end of this December. And all this money isn't really going to be converted in cash until, January or 2 months after the 11/31 money came in. And that's a really clear way to explain what's going on here. You can't bill once a month. You have to bill every 2 weeks. And that's why cash is king. So how can you improve your cash flow? First of all, frequent invoicing. Do not bill once a month. I would say at least monthly. No, don't do that. I would say every 2 weeks. And in the very beginning, you probably should bill every week because you have more, you have so many more bills because you've just started. And then what you want to do is send invoices within 2 or 3 days of the end of the billing period. Get them out a little bit early. And then encourage and remind clients to pay quickly. Send reminders after 1 week. And you say, oh God, I'm really bothering them. Well, you're bothering yourself because you don't have enough money. And what you want to do as a social worker, and you're really good at this, is when you finally do get the bill, send a little thank you note, a handwritten thank you note, so that they know you will really appreciate getting the money. And they're going to respond to that. And then when the billing has not been paid, you really have to be a bill collector. And I know most of us don't like that, but you have to be polite but be persistent to get 100% of that bill in. So, you don't have to do this all. You may, hire a fiscal person to do this, but hire a fiscal person. And as the owner, you've got to stay on top of it. And you can stay on top of it because if almost every care management database will have QuickBooks attached to it. And that's a really easy way to do this. And QuickBooks produces all sorts of reports about, the billing that still isn't paid, about the percentage of hours that are billed. Learn how to read them. You can't be illiterate about that. Oh, and the last one is don't pay bills until they're absolutely due. Don't pay them right away because that gives you less cash flow. Do pay them on time, but not any earlier. And step 3 is to identify systems to ensure your customers have a commitment to pay you. And one is take client deposits. I know a lot of people don't. I had always did for 25 years because I had a care managed home care agency from the very get-go in 1983. And because we did home care, I would require $2,000 as a deposit. Now you say, Kathy, well, that's a lot of money. Well, if they, if they quit, if they fire you and you still have you have a whole payroll left of, 3 shifts to pay, you have to have the money to pay them. And that's what a deposit does. And a deposit also tells them that your social services are about money. And that's a really good and important lesson. I really advocate for using credit cards because you can just bill the credit card on the first and you get the money right back right away. There are fees with credit cards, but it's absolutely worth it in not worrying about where the money came from. And then you always want to get a signed service agreement. And if you've ever worked with me, I suggest that you get Adobe or something like it, and you send your service agreement out the day that they say that they're ready to, to hire you. And the Adobe contract, have it all ready. It'll come right back. And then the deposit, don't go out and get it. Bill them through PayPal or, Apple Money or Bitcom or however you want to do it. But get the deposit right away. This is a business way of running things and running money. And then you want to proactively manage your receivables to maintain cash flow. First of all, you want to create a system to identify how much you're owed and then by whom. And this is again going back to QuickBooks that is in, every really good client database. I know CareTree has it, iHome Health, almost all of them do. So you want to, get these reports so you can see how much is owed and look at it and learn to read it and make it easy for customers to pay you. That's accepting what I just said, credit cards or ACH payments. And then you want to identify an efficient invoicing schedule to get your customer to pay their bills each week. And I already said that. Don't bill once a month. Bill, every 2 weeks, or even in the very beginning, I would suggest every week. And then the next point is you want to hire care managers that have a mindset to bill 85%. And this isn't something that's really talked about with ALCA, but this is really important. You need to hire a care manager who has a left brain, right brain ability. And what I mean by that is left brain is, billing. It's your executive skills. And right brain ability is really your ability to be a social worker. It's analog. It's taking the whole in. So it takes analog to be able to really have the creativity to do services, but it takes left brain to bill. So you want to know they have those two active, sides, and you can do that in interviewing. And then you want to hire a care manager who has a track record in billing and ask them what their former jobs have been and, have they billed, do they have experience? Because most of us in the field didn't ever, if we worked for a hospital, they just paid us. We did good and we didn't worry about where the money came from. And that's not a good beginning to any of this. So you want somebody who has a track record in billing, and on top of that, somebody that buys in to a for-profit agency that doesn't have any hesitation about billing, or you have what happens to so many care managers that they feel guilty. You can't feel guilty in billing. You're doing a great job. You're giving a great service. Plumbers don't feel guilty and they charge more than we do. And we're very happy to have them fix whatever plumbing or heating problem that we have. But they're good to go with their billing. You need good to go care managers who will bill. And I would even consider offering incentives to care managers to bill, and that might be, in keeping, you're going to be able to see who's billing 85% through these, reports that you can get from QuickBooks, and coach them in a really nice way. And if they bill, say 85% for 2 months, give them a bonus. Certainly give them an award, announce it to the group. People love that kind of feedback. And I think, incentives are a really good thing to do, because you want to, give positive, like Pavlovian resource, positive thought and gifts to them. So let's talk about productivity. And this is the 85% that, almost everybody that ever worked with me, all they did was remember that. Bill 85%. I said it so much. Okay, so payroll is going to be your single largest expense by far. And the most impactful factor is the percentage of payroll hours that are billed by the client. Remember in the very beginning, the woman Allie who was hiding, who wasn't billing for 50% even though she was giving services. So for instance, if a care manager bills 30 hours of payroll, she still needs to be paid, or he, in a given week. And if only 18 hours of that 30 are billed to various clients and she's not billing 12, you still have to pay her because she's worked, but her productivity is only 60%. And you've got to understand that part, because the goal for productivity, that's how much the care manager bills, is 85%, because 85% is going to cover your costs and allow for your profit. Because for 30 hours of care management payroll, if someone billed 25.5% of the hours and didn't bill for 5%, you're fine. That's 85%. So let me tell you a little bit more about, or show you how this is really important. So again, payroll is your single largest expense. And the most impactful factor, the most important thing, is productivity, the percentage of payroll hours that are billed to a client. So we're going to take payroll hours over here. It's always 130. So this person at the top has 50%. because she's billing 6,500, but the payroll to her and everybody else is 7,020. So your gross profit is only going to be 520 then. We'll go up to 60%. Their care managers are billing 7,800, but your payroll's 7,020. So you made $7,780. Not enough. You go up to 70 productivity and you're billing 9,100 and your payroll's only 7,020. You've made great 2,080. But when you go up to 80, we're not even to 85. The billing is 10,400. Your payroll is still 7,020, and you've made 3,380. And even if you're at 90, it's much more. So this really explains, why you've got to get your care managers to bill 85%, and yourself too, because you've got to be a model for this. And the assumptions here are the billing rate of $100, a pay rate of $45 an hour, and employer cost of about 20%. And you can, go into this in more depth by going to this link down here, and it'll give you more information about that. So step 8, you've got to choose the right software to bill 85%, because your target productivity, and again, productivity is the amount that you bill, is 85%. So you need really good software to do that, and most care management databases are going to have QuickBooks in it. You might use another program, but QuickBooks is the one that almost everybody has. And you want software to make it easy for your care managers to bill. You don't want them going out in paper. Please stop that. You lose 40% of the billing just going back and trying to remember it. But you want easy billing software, software you can bill in the field, software where you can bill on the phone. And a lot of the programs and I have no skin in the game with CareTree and iHome Health, they have that. So shop around and find out, what's the easiest program that also has QuickBooks in it, that makes it easy for people to bill and will generate all these reports I want you to look at. And one option is determine payroll hours from the time shown in payroll. And you can show that to your billing person. And then new hires, this is really important. You want to review, first of all, what you want to do is you want to make up a chart. And when I teach, in the class, the online class that I have now in the manual, and I'll be starting one, I'll launch it, I think, next month. We'll have a whole online class on the business of geriatric care management, and all this will be in there. But you want to already have a whole chart of what is billed and what's not billed. That's really important, and really think about it, all the tasks that you have that are billed and the tasks that you're not going to bill for, and they've got to really, lesser non-billed, but it might be meetings, staff meetings about planning the picnic, or, you should probably not bill for that, but really figure that out and then teach it to the new hires and teach it to the old hires if you're just going to, switch over, and do it yourself too, because you want to reduce and eliminate non-billable time and really have people understand. So, and before I say this, I would also say that, it sometimes for people that haven't been, billing this way for a while, it takes a while. So you want to coach them. You want to print out, exactly what their billing report is each month, and go over it with them in a really positive way. It's great that you were able to bill more now. Give me your problems that you're having, and really coach them like a really good social worker or nurse, in the ability to, don't yell or get mad. So we're going to end this now, and then we're going to have about 15 minutes of questions. And I always at the end, I make offers, and the offers I'm going to make today, there's only two of them, and they will only be available from today and probably tomorrow, because we'll get you, what you will get is the recording of this out probably tomorrow or the next day. So the first offer is my geriatric care management operation manual just by itself. And the benefits of the operations manual is that you can start a new aging life or geriatric care management business with pre-made products. And I've talked a lot about the whole importance of products and step by step how to deliver them with marketing involved, which is written in a way that it's the gold standard of care for private clients, because you want to keep these clients long term, and entitled clients demand gold standard, and wouldn't you want to give it to anybody anyway? So the manual's written that way. It gives you a really easy way to onboard and train new employees, because it's a training manual. You have exactly how to do everything in it, and you can train from it. You can open and run a second agency from this, because you already have one manual that you've tested out, and you're probably going to change it a little bit to be able to effectively run. And then you can, start it. It gives you a really easy way to start a second business, because you're going to replicate that first agency. And it really is helpful in legal disputes and malpractice, because if you haven't written anything down, your employees are just going to do whatever they can to do the right thing. But if it's not the right thing that you told them to do in a manual, they won't do it. And that's where you get into litigation with the children of somebody's mother. And it's not when you're going to end up in court, it's not if, it's when. And it's usually not a lot about what you've done, but it's siblings fighting about money. But you need to do this. And it has tried and true procedures to deliver flawless care, which is the kind of care that you need to deliver to someone's mother, or they get very upset. The next is, well, this is just about the manual. The features in it are 14 services or products, and this is what I was talking about with seventh generation. There are products, the sort of gateway into care management is non-medicals. There's a whole non-medical product up to what I call care managed home care, where basically they have several shifts or one shift because they've aged in place where they need more care. It has a whole moving services, because clients are moving all the time, and you can see that in the listserv, in that care managers are passing clients on. It has quality of life, which is really the upcoming product, really started by Nina Herndon, who's a fabulous geriatric care management, because people want to know for their parent not only about their own health care, but how to make them happy. And that's what quality of life is about. It's about joy. And so there are 14 different products. It comes in it has a whole forms manual that's integrated with the actual operations manual, very it's synced really well, and it comes in an electronic form, so I just email it to you, and the directions on how to edit it, because you want to make it your own. You want to make it, have your logo, but also you may not like some of the things I have in there. You can change them. And the webinar offer is $7.99, and it's normally $8.99. It's only going to be available until August 29th. From today, and I will send you a contract, because you are licensing my intellectual property, and it's just to protect the intellectual property. You can change the manual in any way you want, but you can't give it to somebody else. And you have to sign that before you purchase it, so you can just email me if you're interested, and you buy it through PayPal. And then the second offer is that in the last 2 years, I used to teach geriatric care management manual individually online to about 100 people. And it really became hard because most of the people got very busy in the middle and weren't able to finish the course. And so I decided to put it online because I've taught online at the University of Florida. I know how to do this. And so I have an online course for the Geriatric Care Management Manual, how to do it, how to deliver each product, how to do the marketing. It's offered through Blackboard, which most geriatric care, which, well, most classes are on Blackboard now. And I taught on Blackboard with the University of Florida, and it's all taught by me. And you will, you'll hear my voice, and you will. It's a self-paced schedule, so you can come in and go out as you wish, because that was the problem before. You can do it on your own terms. It has 14 products. It has 20 PowerPoints with each module. Like each product has its own module with audio plus a video introducing it by me, and then a marketing exercise after each module, because the point is not only just how to deliver it, how to sell it, and exercises to teach you to sell each product. There's homework that needs to be turned into me, not because I grade it, but because I'm helping you do a better job. And there's a closed Facebook group for everybody that's ever bought the manual, which is like about 200 people, and a chat room. So each month we can get together, and they're normally in classes, and we can all talk about problems, bibliography, a syllabus, and CUs from the Association of the Social Welfare Boards. And the benefit of the online class is you receive the operations in the foreign manual and complimentary technical support. I have a tech advisor who I've worked with for 6 years, who's absolutely fabulous. So because you're taking an online course, for any problems you have, TNV Klamath, who is the person I started with at UC Berkeley, when her senior year, and she works in Silicon Valley, and she will help you through everything ongoing. And marketing material, which benefits each target third party. So again, it's not just the class, it's marketing, and it makes your agency more scalable, so you can open a second agency, which I've already said. It saves you money and time, as the care management staff will use it as a reference and a training manual. And if you're ill, sick, or you have an emergency, and we all have them today because of global warming, so more hurricanes. Keep laughing. Usually what care managers do is they have sister care managers somewhere else that have phones, because you won't have a phone in the crisis or the wildfires out here, and you can give them the manual and they can run things for you in the crisis. And the crises are just accelerating because of global warming. And you can sell the agency at the end literally for double the price if you have a turnkey operation. That's not true in just geriatric care management. That's true in any business you serve, because the manual is just there to run it. It doesn't take you sticking there a long time to tell them what to do. It's a turnkey operation. So that's available. It's usually $9.95, and it will be $8.95 in this offer. You can break it up into two parts. You'll get, if you do that, it's $423 the first month, and you can start the class, but you don't actually get the manual till the second payment is received. And you have to sign a contract, because I'm literally licensing my material to you, and you can email me at that email. So now we're going to do questions.
Well,
And
thank you, Kathy.
this is how you can connect with me, all those things. So Keith is the question taker.
Well, I'm reading them actually. And thank you for that presentation, another informative webinar that you've given us. I like the fact you introduced ethics into this one. I think it's the first time that you've brought that topic into it. But that is
Critical.
an interesting, and although we talk about it, we don't really solve it, do we? Now, you talked about it and you mentioned it, but what do you do when the clients still approach you, who cannot afford your services? That dilemma will always be there as long as you have your business. you will always have to turn away people that you cannot take or they cannot afford you,
And
right?
it's
That
hard,
doesn't go away over time. You've been in business 25 years, and I bet up to the last day or the last year, you had still had people that could not afford your services that were still contacting you.
and it still tore my heart out. And it
Yeah.
tears everybody's heart out because we weren't trained to do this. But you have to stick to the gun. I always like, you know, if you, and I don't, many people don't read Ulysses, but Ulysses comes to this point. He's sailing against the Aegean, and the mermaids or the sirens are all on the side of the boat. So they have to tip, they have to, and they want him to dive over with them. So they tie him to the mast. And what you have to do is tie yourself to the mast like Ulysses and not dive over and give that away for free. So that's my story there.
That's a bit dramatic, but yeah, I understand what you're right. You have to go against your intuition and what you're saying. Yes, I want to help you. I want to take this client. I want to help you and move you along, and you can do that. I guess what I'm coming to is I think you can. I think you can balance if it's nothing more than assisting them on the phone and giving them appropriate referrals if need be. And I know everybody does that. So I'm saying what everybody already knows what to do. But the issue is, and yeah, this is open for discussion many times. But what do you do, and how do you tell that person? Do you I let them decide. I tell them that I'm a private pay solo practitioner, and then when I start talking about my fees, they tend to say, well, I can see I can't afford you, or something to that effect. So you're not necessarily turning them away. You're offering them what you charge and letting them make the decision. And I know that sounds backhanded, doesn't it? It sounds backdoor. Uh,
But it's the
in a
truth.
way to rationalize, how do you say? And I don't want to talk about that. This is for another discussion because I do want to get to the folks do have some questions here, but it's just something to think about. How you're talking about starting a business here, so those things will come up to the new GCMs, care managers that are starting their business, and you have to reconcile within yourself and how you're going to approach these things. I'm going to approach that topic of people who need your services but simply can't afford them, no matter what. Even to some cases, no matter what sliding scales, a fee schedule that you have that you can incorporate. There's just a time when at some point in your business, if you are not making a profit, like you say, and you are breaking even, you can't take on all these people for nothing, because then you'll be serving nobody at that point. Then you will go under, and you simply will not be serving anybody, and that serves no purpose.
Well,
Um,
exactly,
so
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
But I
But
think
I just
that up, it is really in your continuum of care, besides knowing, the hospitals, the doctors, know the services that can take low income people. I mean, obviously, Medicaid serves, MSSP and, all the Medicaid services linked in, they will serve the lower 30%, but try to find the 90%, the 30 to 90 agencies that will solve them and make that part of your continuum of care and refer them on. And that, I think that's the ethical good thing to do.
Okay, so let's get to the questions here. And I'm trying to see how they came in what order. Uh, and I think there was one at the very beginning that asked about, did you have a particular favorite software package for billing services? Did you recommend any? Or I know you had mentioned a couple, and your point was let us decide what works best for
Yeah,
for, for us.
again, I don't have any skin in the game. I really like iHome Health because it has
Okay.
all the things that I've been talking about. CareTree, a lot of people really like CareTree and they say it really works well. I believe he has not QuickBooks, but another form, but it seems to work for people. But you really have to shop around. Um, there's four different types. There's four different. It's a new industry, so there's only four choices.
Yeah,
And
there's not a lot out there to choose from.
leases, I'm trying to think of leases. I
But to that point too, I want to also say and add to your statement is that when you are choose one that you're actually going to use, and don't get one with all the bells and whistles that you're not even going to, that's too much for you. So get one that you are comfortable with, one that you understand, one that you're going to be working with, and one that has the potential to grow with you as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I blog, at the end, I have, I do a blog, pretty much every day. And there's, I've done it forever. So there's this giant, backlog. Tomorrow I'll try to put on, I did a whole blog about what to look for in software and,
Okay.
and the four different kinds. Probably not tomorrow, but maybe the next day.
Yeah,
So,
anybody, we all can do a Google search and find out what care management software is out there. I think we all are capable of doing that. But I think it really comes down to, like you said, choosing one that works for you, choosing one that, that suits your needs. So
right.
let's go on to the. We have a number of questions here, so let's go on to another one. Ellen asks, do you charge the same hourly rate for all services, or do you charge less for services like life enrichment activities?
All services. I
All
charge.
services are the same price.
This is what yes, absolutely. You have to figure out an hourly fee, and the hourly fee has to be based on what you call, in the old railroad game, what the traffic will bear. So if you're working in New York City, you're going to have probably a 125 to 150, and you have to do a competition survey to figure that out. If you're working in the Midwest, it's going to be less. If you're working the California coast, we're much more like New York. But you want to figure that out, and then you want to figure an hourly fee, not vary them, because it's going to make your billing like totally crazy. And beyond that, isn't your service worth a lot? I always start my classes like that. Aren't you as valuable as a plumber? you know there's
Mm.
the 80, I believe that it has to be one price for everything.
And I would even take that up. I would even carry that a little bit further. And nothing against plumber, nothing against any other profession at all. But in this particular profession, like a plumber fixes broken pipes, we fix broken lives. There's a difference between when you're working with something that doesn't have life, like plumbing and canning sardines or fixing bicycle, whatever it may be. But in this case, as care managers, we're working with humans, we're working with people, we're working with disabilities in that area. So there is a distinction, I think, between healthcare services, working with animals, working with people, but working with live objects as opposed to working with. So I think there's a distinction between
It's
those two.
a giant difference, and I use that because of that. I mean,
Right,
if
because of that.
you've
Right.
ever gotten a plumbing bill, do you know how expensive that is? And isn't your service worth, an equal amount, but really, in terms of morality and ethics, you're helping a human being change their life. And isn't your time worthwhile, is what I'm trying to say to everybody. You
Mhm.
should be charging for what you are worth.
Okay, another question from Ellen here. If you go out with a client, like to lunch or a show, do you always require reimbursement for your lunch, show, ticket, etc.? Or do you only request reimbursement when the expense is above a certain dollar threshold?
No, oh, I would charge the hourly for taking them out, and the hourly and whatever you're, paying for their lunch. It's really up to you whether you want to throw in your own lunch. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
for the care managers that you hire, you don't want the care managers to expend that amount of money either. I mean, you're really paying them less than. So I would think if it's not you, and you're the only one, then I would charge for it all, because the care manager would not normally, you know,
Have lunch with,
have,
right?
and it's offering really wonderful socialization. And that's worth something. Just think of what you do. When I talk about quality of life, you're enhancing their quality of life. That's a great service.
Okay, thank you. Kristen asks, when talking about selecting care manager care managers with a proven track record for billing, how do
Mhm.
you find these individuals?
Usually they're younger, because they're more acculturated to billing. And, I'm not saying hire 20-year-olds, but, people right out of college, that have gotten either their BA or, probably their MSW, they're much more open to billing, and they're just more savvy. We really come, I mean, I'm 74. I'm not going to ask Keith how old he is, but we come from a wholly different generation where, I mean, social services used to be totally free, and people didn't really want to pay women for anything. It wasn't even men then. um,
Yeah.
and we grew up in that era. This is the Me Too movement. This is when, most women, work in a family, and they know the value of money and weren't put down by, I mean, when I first became a social worker, I can't tell you how little I made. Nothing. And, because it wasn't looked at as an important job. And so I would say I'd stick with younger people, and I would build an interview that really talked about that. Ask questions.
Well, that would be part of the interview process, right? You would ask them how they work, and yes, and your expectations of them in hiring them.
Well, yeah, a lot of young people have already been in micro industries. They
Yeah.
like Airbnb is, when it was a startup, that was all done by young people who couldn't afford their apartment in San Francisco. So they thought they started a business to be able to pay the rent. A lot of people have a lot of extra jobs, and there's more, the gig economy is more out there now than it ever was. So, people are much more, and women especially, because women have been working. So, younger people are, I think, much more like right brain, left brained.
Okay, thank you. Leanne asks, can you please clarify why we would want to open up a second business?
Make more money.
Well, what about having well, okay, many care managers are guardians as well. They get their guardian professional guardianship license, or
Right.
whatever it is. So that would be two separate, right? Would that be not be two separate businesses?
That's kind of a diversification of products, but many care managers say, I'm in Santa Cruz, California, and I originally started in Monterey, where I had an office, and I opened a second office in San Jose, California.
Yeah.
I already had one in Santa Cruz, so I was essentially covering 3 counties. And to open the second office in San Jose, I learned how to do an operations manual in 1989. And so I had an operations manual, and it made me really easy to, because everybody followed the same formulas, the same intakes, the same forms, and it made it really easy to do. And, a lot of people might, want to do that. I've worked with one woman who covers 3 counties in Texas. Some people like have one at their vacation home, say, in, I'm trying to think of, well, we'll say Florida. People, you spend the winter in Florida, and then you're in New York in the winter, or I mean in the summer, sort of like Donald Trump at Bedminster, and at any rate, a lot of people have 2 businesses, and you would make more money.
Yeah, but to that, and I never had a second business, but to that, you would be very, that's you would be cautious as to when you did that, right? If you were open up a second business or even a second branch of your business, you would be financially want to be in a position where you can do that. You want to do the same marketing area, right? For that new area that you did for the
Exactly.
original, you want to
You
go
want
through the same process.
You want to go through the same process I just explained. You want to do a market survey to
Yeah.
find out if it's fiscally feasible. You want to have the money to be able to pay you already know the expenses because you know the equipment you're using, and you'll find out the rent, etc. But it's a turnkey operation. that, of course you're gonna, but that's what franchises are about. I mean, I'm not telling you to franchise, but franchises, McDonald invented franchises by having the first manual, actually, and then they followed suit with a second business with a manual because they had to, and it's called How to Fry the Hamburger. But
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
to fry the perfect hamburger, and you want to know how to take care of somebody's mother, even more important than being sued over a hamburger. So,
Yes, absolutely. Leanne is asking the age-old question that I think from the dawn of care management has come up. But her question is, what do you do when the kids in the family want GCM services, but your clients, the parents, the person the receiving of the care management don't agree?
well, yeah, that's the age-old question that,
Yeah.
Keith and I, having done this for 20 billion years, usually people come to the point of having a crisis, and that puts them over the edge. What I suggest is adding to, and this is about to be in the manual, um, a service that is um, that basically, and I used to do this a lot. We had a service that did it, and we would go out, for the adult children and do an initial assessment and then keep it, in the family would pay us like a very minimal amount each month, waiting for the crisis to come. And then you could respond to the crisis right away, because you had a baseline. And, most of the time I mean, just think of yourself. When you get old, do you want somebody, running your life? You won't. I don't. And, so you want to be able to, have a service that can prematurely kind of be there for the family when the crisis comes. It's very, very hard to convince someone who is, is dug in their heels that they don't want anything until they fall and break their hip, or until they can't find their car and they can't come back, or until they've wrecked their car because they should have had their keys taken away. And that's, unfortunately, the truth about it. Keith, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I would. Yeah. I'm going to move on to. There's a bunch more questions here, and I know we're running out of time, so forgive me if I'm moving
You
quickly
made it
here.
an hour and a half, which is
Oh, we have an
great.
hour and a half. Okay. All right. Then we do have some time. Okay. So let's get to this next question as well. Quan Hong asks, I know you mentioned you use a deposit around 2000. Our deposits, I'm assuming that her business or their business, can go upward of 24,000 while competitors are charging none. Um, and let me go back to that. The competitors are charging none. Hold on, I lost the, sorry. Uh,
You're
there we
like my
go.
point today.
It's strange. It's strange. It just jumped around. Okay, so they're charging none. And she didn't say, oh, they're in sales. And I'm getting a lot of pushback, but the rules aren't set by me. Do you have any tips on asking and getting large deposits and staying competitive with those who don't? Um,
Well,
to
it's a
break that
matter
up.
of self-preservation. If somebody doesn't accept them, I would not go to not getting them, because you always are going to have clients who do not pay you and they fire you and you're stuck with a giant payroll. You've got to pay your care managers, you've got to pay your in-home care providers, and that can be huge if it's in a couple of shifts. So all I can say is what I used to do, which is, I would calculate, and I sold my business a long time ago, but what a 3-shift case would be in a week or 2 weeks, and use that. If you're just doing care management and you're not doing home care, then calculate the maximum amount that a care manager would expend on, say a very high need case.
Mm-hmm.
But, I would not give in to not doing it, because it can really, in, vernacular of New Jersey, where I come from, screw you. And you really got to come up with the money and pay it all out of your own pocket. And that's why you want to do it. Plus the fact it teaches people this is about money. And it goes back to just what I was saying before, that, social services in the 50s and the 60s used to be, oh, it's only done by women, and therefore, why should we pay for it? So it's a
Yeah.
bit
So I think the question was, or the situation was, that this person is working for a firm or an agency that's charging large deposits, or large or asking for large,
that's significant. 24, I don't know.
up to, yeah, that's what I'm reading here. I went back and looked at it again and make sure I was getting it right here. Yeah, it says
No sense to me.
deposits can go upward of 24K, while competitors are charging none. So I think the pushback that this person is talking about is maybe from the clients who are asking them for services, and they're saying, well, you need a deposit of X amount of money, and they're coming back and saying, well, Keith Mineski down the road here doesn't charge anything. Why are you charging something? I'm assuming that's the
That's
dilemma,
pretty,
or
I
the issue
think
that
that's
you're talking
out of
about.
bounds. Out of bounds. And if you work for them, maybe you want to consider starting your own business or joining another one.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm jumping around here. That now I know we have a little bit more time now, so I
Okay.
can let me go back up here to the top here. Um, I know Leanne had asked a number of other questions here, so I'm trying to get a couple other people in. So I'll get back to those other ones. So
Okay.
Patty asks, oh, the names of the okay, these are the software programs that we talked about earlier. Okay, well, I found that one then, and we went over the software programs. And you can always email Kathy with any other questions that we don't get to here tonight or this afternoon.
Always get back to people. Believe me, I'm pretty loyal. And so if you email me and ask me, I will answer whatever I can. And to my ability, yeah, I will.
Patty's asking here, how do you deal with family and friends who are frequently asking for free advice or services?
Well, I'm retired from doing this for a long time, and this is the way I handle it. If it's a really, really close friend, I will help them. But I'm not a practicing care manager anymore. I am a consultant, and you know, I have a different kind of life. So I will help people, but I won't do the fault. I will give them advice. I'm not going to I won't take on somebody's grandmother or anything. But I will,
Yeah.
very easy for me to, know, who they should go to, and uh, but I don't micromanage. I'll macro manage for them, and just to get them started, and it's usually just referring them to another care manager, or um, and sometimes I'll give you an example. I had a friend of my daughter's mother call, and it was her husband had been a vet in the VA, and he didn't even know the VA would cover. He was in Vietnam, and he had the end stages of Parkinson's, and didn't know what to do. And, I did really help them. But all I did was I knew what I know, and you mostly are going to know too. I knew where the Parkinson's Association was, right? It's the best in the world, right up near me. I contacted the VA, and the VA and the Parkinson's Society went out, and this is all in Los Angeles, and they took care of it. I mean, if you're a really good care manager, you can figure these things out. But that was, an extraordinary case. It was a friend of my daughter, and I was just so upset that this guy was in end stage Parkinson's. This woman had no care for him except herself, blah, blah, blah. So I do macro, not micro.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree with you. That's an area that could be very tricky, and I would at all cost avoid
yeah,
giving advice, unprofessional advice, not unprofessional, but in a non-professional, non-clinical setting to family members, because you're really setting yourself up for some serious. And I'm not even talking about getting sued or liability. I'm just talking about family issues. I'm talking about family dynamics
yeah,
that can go.
your friends, you can get into so much trouble. I want to tell
Yeah,
you
yeah,
that's
I
as
mm,
well. and then the liability, and then the workload that you're already doing. So I'd be very cautious, and I would only do it when you retire, honestly.
Okay, so we got some clarification from Kwang Hong here on the issue about charging the 24K for deposits and so on.
Uh-huh.
She's They're clarifying that it's for home care. It's 24/7 home care. Okay, so that's why a large deposit then, because it would be for round the clock care.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're covering, 24/7, so that's a lot of money. That adds up within a week. Yeah, that's a lot of money already. But she said that they only charge $1,000 for the GCM deposit, and that makes sense.
That,
That
that
part makes sense.
that makes sense.
The home care for 1 month. It's okay. It's for 1 month, 24K for 1 month. And so, okay, so I'm okay. We're going to continue the conversation in real time then. So it is, so it's a deposit for home care 24/7 for 1 month. Okay. I don't. And so the pushback is then from the people who are saying, well, wait a minute, who has $24,000 laying around just to give you for 1 month as a deposit? And is that on top of, my question would be then, is that on top of what you would normally charge? So that's a retainer and held until maybe the last month or so or something like that. So they have to come up with 24 grand plus something else, I guess
Yeah.
is the question.
Yeah, I don't really know how to answer that. That seems like a lot of money. But
Yeah,
what
that's
you have to know about these accounts is you have to set up an account. You have to pay them interest when you give the deposit back if they've never used it. You can't use it for your business. It has to be a very protected account where you keep that deposit money. But go on. I mean, we probably spent too much time on that. Use.
a lot of time on any of these questions, a ton of time on. And Leanne asked about that other question about when they're not in agreement with the kids that want to hire you as a GCM for the parents who don't want you. How would you deal with that case? Would you decline it? Would you, why, try to, what would you do? You would have to speak to the parents at some, I mean, they're your clients, so you need to,
Well,
I would,
I would go out and many times, I mean, because that comes up all the time, I would go out and try to initiate services. And I'd really, again, get a baseline of what the real problems are. I would do a geriatric assessment. We used to do that all the time. And when I worked in Monterey, Pebble Beach, and you know, get all the information. If the services were still rejected, then we would put them into this service that was sort of on call. And a lot of agencies do this, where you have the baseline, and then what you do is you check in with the family, say every 2 months, real minimal fee, any changes, what's going on, and they're basically giving you a retainer, a very minimal retainer, to be able to still be involved, so that when the crisis comes, you can get right up to the hospital, update the baseline, and it's a really good new service to integrate.
what if the people don't want to sign your contract that you're going to parents? The kids are setting this all up and they've made you
Well,
contact, they've emailed you, called, and you
would
go
have,
over.
the kids would have to sign the contract, not the older person.
All right. So the kids sign the contract, and then you go to the older part. How are you going to do an assessment if they won't let you in the door?
Well, then you're screwed. Forget it. You
Well, there
can't.
you go. That's I think the dilemma that we're talking about here is that does happen and that does come up. And and I would be honest with my client, and even if it did mean like you said, just you're screwed, you walk away because there's nothing else you can do at that point. But I would say, listen, let me tell you what I'm about first before you close the door on me, and
Well,
then close the door on me if you still feel the same way. But I would try to, because obviously there would be a need, right? These people wouldn't call you, the kids wouldn't pay for your services, and we know they wouldn't just throw money at you for no reason. So there's a need there at some level at some point.
well,
So
lots of times, really. I mean, let me use the example of my father. My father lived with me for 20 years, and he was from New Jersey. So he would always say to me, Kath, you think you're an expert. Because of course he wasn't going to listen to me, but he would listen to everybody else. And so sometimes, as you're an objective party as a geriatric care manager, and sometimes you can really make the difference because the kids telling them, that they're mad at their kids. And the service that I was talking about, I remember it now. It's called Standby, and I'm just about to put it in the operations manual, but a standby service is a really good thing to have when you come into these, if you're just dealing with the kids and, and the kids are going to sign the contract, it's a real minimal fee to keep that baseline to be ready when the crisis happens.
Okay, thank you. Leanne again has a couple more. She has a question about administrative charging for administrative and for travel, and then she goes on to say we have an administrative fee since it is done by our administrative assistant, such as requesting records, uploading records, so on, ordering fees, and so on. I'm trying to scroll down here and see what else is there. What do you mean by a minimal fee in those cases that you are there for? I'm not quite sure. It looks like this is a 3-part or 4-part question here. So the first part of it is something about what do you charge for administrative and travel? Same
Um,
rate, right? It's same price. You charge by
Well,
the
what
hourly rate.
you can do, the travel, I would always charge the full rate, but what she's suggesting, I think, is actually a really good idea. If you have something called an assistant care manager that's, calling when you're on hold forever with, or going through medical records, that isn't really something that you should be doing. So you can hire an assistant care manager to do those things, charge less for it, but more than the salary you're going to pay the administrative assistant, and bill
Right.
for it that way. And that's a really fair way to do it, because there's so much bureaucratic work when you need to do to handle a case when you're calling doctors, you're on hold forever, you're running and getting picking up medication. It's a really, really good way to, charge less, and that's fair. But always you've got to figure out what you're paying the administrative assistant and charge more so you're making a profit.
Okay. All right. I hope that answers. And then again, what do you mean by minimal fee for those cases that you are there for crisis management?
Again, it's called a standby service, and you go out and get a baseline, and if they won't let you in the door, you get the baseline from the adult children. And then you start it, you charge a very minimal fee to keep all those files on record. You update it every month or 2 months. You call the family, update the baseline, and then inevitably the crisis is going to happen, but you're ready to go. You have really all the baseline information. You're going to update it, but that's a standby service product.
And I think she's asking about specifically what is a reasonable charge or a reasonable fee, and that is based on where you're located
Well,
and what your charges
you know,
are in general.
it really again is where you're located, but I would charge the regular fee for doing the initial geriatric assessment as best you can, but then a really reasonable fee for the call. You'd make a call every 2 months or every month. You want to send them the newsletter too, because it's a client that's going to come to you. It's in your pipeline. Let's put it this way. But make it reasonable and charge the regular fee in the beginning, but they're not going to be billed on ongoing for care management or anything like that because you can't do it.
So there wouldn't be. She's in California. Leanne's out in California, so I don't. That I think that really comes down to what you feel is reasonable, what your standby service really would entail. I mean, you talked about yours, Kathy, but people would have different maybe
Yeah,
levels of that, right? And that way you'd have to calculate.
you start with whatever your baseline hourly fee is, and then the number of hours it's going to take you to do whatever it does. So in the beginning, you are going to spend a couple of hours, getting all this information. Times, say in California, Northern California, it's probably 135.
Mhm.
And then, and Southern California, I think, is about the same, unless you're up in the high desert with the desert rats. It's cheaper. Um, and then, um, and then, just a monthly check-in, and that's a telephone call, and you figure it out in increment. You take your hourly fee, and you do incremental charges per, what portion of the hour. So say 15 minutes of, 1 hour of $125.
Okay. All right. I hope that that's a tough question to answer because there's so many variables that you have to take into consideration for something like that. I would
Yeah.
think I am
Like
by
I
no means any
I'm
business
going to
expert.
stand by in the manual. It's been on my things to do for a long time, but I'll do it this year, and I'll probably, yeah. So anyway,
Okay. It looks like that's the end of, I believe, that is the end
gone
of.
way over too, but this is great. And please give, Keith a rousing cheer in your silent way, because he's the greatest.
Oh,
We are
wait a minute before. Well, we got another one. Terry just popped in here with a question, and let's see how complicated this is. How do you bill for after estate care? Moving resources for spouses, family. Oh yeah, that is a whole nother ball game there.
I have a whole moving service in the operations manual, and what I suggest is, um, the pre-move is really important, because, they're giving up everything in their life, really. And so you've got to figure out, can they stay at home? Is this their wish or their adult children's wish? And then you've got to go through all sorts of things about downsizing their favorite furniture. All of that you've got to charge for. But the actual move, I do not recommend that care managers do that. And you might want to do it, but I don't think you should. And you hire a move management company to do that. And then you do the post move. The post move is just as critical, because they're moving to Mars. They don't know anybody. They've never lived in a motel, which it seems to be to them. They've got to make new friends. And so that's how I handle it in move management. And then, of course, I mean, if you watch the listserv, people are trading clients all the time. They have somebody who's moving to California from New York, and so you charge for the time you're working with the other care manager who's, moving them from one end to the other, or just, finding you. That's the way I do it.
She said she's saying that she's stating that the question is about the after estate billing.
Oh, you mean when they die?
I don't know what exactly that means. That's how it reads here. The question is about after estate billing.
Have
Yes,
have her.
yes.
I mean, not call me. Just have her email me, and I'll try to help.
She is saying after your client has passed. That's what she's talking about. After maybe the closing part of it, a termination part of it, maybe all that stuff.
You're moving to the grave. Yes, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a little more that's more complicated probably than what we have time for here right now. But yeah, and listen, and let's go ahead. Why don't we go ahead and wrap this up, Kathy, and let people know that this will be available on your website, correct? This
Yeah,
this
Keith is going, between Keith and I, and my webmaster. It should be posted by tomorrow, and I will send out a whole other constant contact with the link to see this.
Okay.
So everybody's going to get it, whether if you sign up, you'll get it.
Okay.
And
Well, there you go. Okay.
even if you weren't able to attend, and that should come by tomorrow. Some days, some weeks, it comes the next day. It just happens that nobody had enough time to do it. But you will get a copy of me screwing around with the PowerPoint.
Yes, at the beginning there, we have to
Yeah,
talk to our editors here on this one. This is
yeah, no. But
okay.
they're
All right.
wonderful. Thank you so much for paying, as much attention to your business and wanting to learn new things, and for
Yeah.
really going into the hardest thing that there is, and it's billing, because we were not trained to do this. So, really, I hope you learned something from it. And I'll be doing another webinar next month. I haven't exactly gotten to the point where I've chosen what it is, but I will be doing it. And Keith, my loyal partner, and I will do it together again. And thank you so much for attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.